Hey, my name is Lizzie Smiley, and I absolutely love helping people connect with their calling and all the tools they need to kick roadblocks and excuses right out the door so they can cultivate the life they dream about. If you want to launch, grow, pivot, or scale your Etsy shop, or you've always wanted to develop the mindset and skills to run your own business, then I'm your girl. I've had that entrepreneurial spirit going strong since my very first lemonade stand, and now I'm a work-at-home mama with multiple online companies and a full-time Etsy shop, all while being present with my kids for the everyday chaos and most important milestones. On this podcast, we'll talk about all things business, mindset, Etsy, creativity, dazzling our customers, and so much more. There's plenty of room at this table for you, so scooch on in and let's go. I'm holding nothing back. Welcome to How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. I'm so glad you're here. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. This is another spectacular handmade seller conversation. I just think there's so much goodness in this chat for every single one of you listening, no matter what you sell. We are hitting on so many of the points that just lead to amazing sales, which is exactly what happened with Emily. As we get started this week, I want to let you know I'm having a lot of fun playing with Profit Tree's new tool called Etsy Radar. If you are on a real budget, you're paying for all of the subscriptions and things that are suggested by all of the Etsy coaches. I know it can become a lot. We're all trying to just get you all of the information, the tools that are available, but then you need to make the decisions about what you can and can't pay for right now based on where you're at. And what I'm loving about Profit Tree is that they have the lifetime access option right now. It's not going to be around for forever. In fact, with as robust as the tool is becoming, I don't think that the lifetime is going to be available much longer. So you can get the new tool. Etsy Radar comes with their $67 one-time fee lifetime offer. You get access to this forever. And it has all of the data that you need to be able to do research. So when I'm telling you, make data-informed decisions, create products that are in demand, Profit Tree's Etsy Radar tool is going to teach you exactly how to do that. I'm going to link both where you can get that lifetime offer if you want to jump on it before it's gone. It's going to be down in the show notes. I also created a YouTube video to show you all the different ways that I'm using it, because sometimes that's the thing, right? It's like learning a new tool. Not only is it like you're paying for it monetarily, you're paying for it with your time. So let me cut the learning curve for you. The lifetime also comes with the profit tracking, so you can know your numbers like you're going on Shark Tank. You can make sure your ads are profitable. I'm really a big proponent on Etsy ads, and our seller here today is as well, because once I figured out Etsy and I got my sales to about $6,000 or $7,000 per month with handmade, I turned on Etsy ads and was able to scale it to $12,000 to $13,000 a month, like just by adding it. And you need the data that Profit Tree gives you to be able to do that wisely without losing a bunch of money on ads. It's going to help you know your numbers, which if you're like me, maybe some ADHD going on, undiagnosed, maybe numbers aren't your strong suit, having a tool to do it for you that just knocks Etsy's stats out of the water is really helpful. So if you want to make sure and lock in the lifetime access, go ahead and grab that link below. I'll keep you posted as soon as I hear that they're phasing that out, but she's kind of been hinting like this isn't going to be around forever. So wanted to let you know. The other thing I want to ask you about is I've been working with so many of you guys on building digital product businesses in my membership of Etsy sellers and in Trendspotting and all of that. And I am thinking about adding another membership that is for templates. So every single month, every week, I would give you a new template that you can then sell. You can sell it as is, or what I recommend is you tweak it to make it very specific to a micro niche or a niche. You like take the base template, whether it's a tracker or a planner or some kind of digital template that you can then go take and make your own and resell it. You can then also turn it into several other templates. If it's a tracker, you could literally create 30 trackers out of the one template. So I'm curious to find out your interest. Would you be interested in me giving you a template once a month? This would be a very affordable membership, but you'll just get these delivered to you every single week to use. So I'm going to put a link down in the show notes where you can opt into that if you want, or if you want to know more about it. Anyone who joins that list, saying they're interested, you're going to get a special offer. You're going to get like a bonus if you decide to join the membership that won't go out to the full email list. I'll let everyone know if and when it's coming out, but if you're on that list, you're going to get a bonus. But right now, I just want to gauge your interest. It's something that my team and I are talking about. We think it would be a really helpful tool, because what I'm hearing from students is they know that they need to be adding more to their Etsy shops, but time is the problem. And then like design skill. And so I'm trying to figure out where I can take some of that off your plate. And I think a template membership could really be the ticket if it was super affordable. So let me know below if that's something you want to know more about, and I'll let you know when it comes out and get you a special bonus for that. Otherwise, I'm so excited to tell you about Emily, our guest today. And I'm going to talk about this more on the podcast, but I'm really leaning into handmade a lot. You guys know I'm really big on digital, and I think that digital products are going to continue for the next couple of years to be a great place to be getting our feet wet on Etsy, to be making some more passive income. But I'm paying attention a lot to the handmade space right now because my prediction is that with the advent of like AI becoming more and more a part of our lives, there's going to become less and less demand for digital products. I don't think it'll go away because well, the AI can build anything, you have to know how to prompt it. And I think that there's going to be plenty of people alive who are not going to necessarily develop that skill. You know, like basically maybe anyone millennial and over, only some of them will choose to develop that skill. And so there will still be a place for us, but the demand I think will go down. Whereas for handmade products, really high quality, like the things that Emily is doing, experiences, like memory making, actual crafted things, I think that's really going to be a place where we can safeguard. So if you're worried about your job going in the next couple of years, you could dabble in digital because that's easier to do alongside your job, but really start thinking about handmade as well. This conversation came about because I saw someone wearing a sweatshirt that had their kid's name embroidered along the collar. It was like a crew neck, and the names were embroidered along the collar, and I fell in love with it. I just thought it was so cute, like so preppy, so stylish. And so I wanted to order one, and I went and found someone on Etsy who did it, and it was Emily. So I ordered and fell in love with this sweatshirt. Her service was excellent. The quality is excellent. I get compliments on it all of the time. People go bananas over the sweatshirt. It's so interesting. And so when I was just like, oh my gosh, you're in the embroidery space doing something so unique and beautiful, I invited her on the podcast, and she's like, that's kind of crazy, Lizzie, because I listened to your podcast, or I have listened. And so that's where this all came from. And I'm really excited because it's such a rich conversation. Like she's really sharing a lot of wisdom about what it takes. And she's had very fast success on Etsy. So let me tell you a bit about Emily. Emily Bowser is the designer behind, I should have asked if it's Magil or Magil, Magill, a San Diego-based clothing brand that creates custom vintage-inspired sweatshirts. After falling in love with sewing in high school, Emily pursued her passion at Cornell University, earning a degree in fashion design, and after graduating began her career at URBN Inc., where she designed clothing for BHLDN, Urban Outfitters, and Anthropologie, my favorite. After several years in the design world, Emily went on to earn her MBA at Georgetown University and transitioned into marketing and customer strategy, blending her creative background with business expertise. In 2018, after relocating to California, Emily launched Magil as a creative outlet that reflected her personal aesthetic and love of vintage style and design. Drawn to the craftsmanship and individuality of vintage sweatshirts and athletic wear, she became inspired by the hand-finished details and heirloom quality of garments from the past. This passion continues to inform her work today as she thoughtfully merges timeless design with modern sensibilities through her brand, Magil. So we're going to dig into embroidery business, handmade on Etsy, scaling into Shopify and Faire, photography, all of the things that have come together to make this brand a fast success, and all of her tips for you guys. So with that being said, please help me welcome Emily to the podcast. Emily, hey, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat and be here.
Well, thank you for being willing to take a risk on me since I'm pulling you into the deep end. I was letting everyone know in the intro that this all happened because I bought the most incredible sweatshirt from you. So, are you familiar with this show at all?
Yeah, so I have listened to your podcast before. I'm always kind of looking for resources to improve my Etsy game and hear from other sellers and such. So yeah, I've listened to your podcast. So when I actually saw your name in my Etsy, like in my shop, I was like, wait a minute. How many Lizzie Smileys are there? I feel like that's not too common of a name. So that's kind of how I connected the dots on that. Yeah. So I've listened definitely before.
That's a riot. I'm glad that you're aware of what's about to happen to you. But also that's crazy that you kind of were already curious when you saw. I didn't remember that nuance that you were just like, huh. I wonder. Hopefully, I was on my best behavior in the DMs.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so one of the reasons I was just like, we have to talk, there's a couple of them. I mean, embroidery is huge. This space has so much potential. So I'm really excited about the work that you're doing, but also you had some like insane results, Emily. I don't know if you realize, like, I look at, thousands of shops a year. You are one of the best performing ones I've seen. Like you've grown really fast for the handmade space. Like, has it been kind of a crazy ride?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say there's kind of two sides. I mean, one, it's been crazy and like I've had to learn a lot of things on the fly and how to kind of grow with sales. But I've also been kind of like trying to figure this sort of like entrepreneurial selling of handmade stuff for a while now. So like it's kind of one of those things you hear like it seems like it's overnight when I feel like on my side I'm like the kind of trudging through the mud in a lot of ways. It just doesn't get seen. So like there's kind of two sides to it. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that because first of all, that's like the most relatable thing I have ever heard. Like when my podcast kind of like took off, people are like, "Where did you come from?" I'm like, "I have been working my butt off for over a decade." Like you have no idea how hard. So I'm so glad you said that, and I think that's really encouraging to other people. Like it's very rare there's an overnight success. It's most likely they have been like we didn't even talk about this. Tell us some things that you did before. Like where did you get some of your scars?
So, I mean, I have always kind of been passionate about selling things that I've made and like trying to figure out how to be like have a business in that way. I mean, like my family will tell you, like I think I had my first like I'll say quotes business when I was like 8 or like 10 or something. I would like
Yes.
selling like I would make homemade. I was making what I call stationery. I would like cut up computer paper and like design the borders and things and like sell them to like my relatives or like I had a newsletter subscription. I like would write a newsletter and sell it to my like cousins and make them like, 10 cents an issue or whatever. So I was always trying to like figure something like that out. And I think my first started on Etsy like after college, but I didn't really know what Etsy was. And I was knitting, like doing a lot of knitting at the time. And I was doing like vintage customization. So I started posting stuff on there with no knowledge of SEO, no knowledge of, I mean, nothing. The photos are probably terrible. I should try to find them. But so I think I sold like one thing and then I let it go. Like years went by and then I kind of thought like, maybe I'll revisit Etsy again and like went back to that shop, which is like hilarious because now my shop says my shop is super old and it's like, it is because I started it like way back then. Hasn't been that long in the form it's in for one of my shops. And then, so I mean like, I've just had, and like with any shop, I've had my fair share of issues with like, when I started learning, like just even production things where like I did something and like the color bled and I didn't know, and I had to replace it. Like all kinds of, I've had every issue in the book, I feel like. And every time I think my perspective on it is like learn and improve so it doesn't happen again. Like I feel like that's the way you have to think about it. Like no one's ever going to grow their shop, do anything really perfect the first time. As long as you're learning from the mistakes and you don't make that same one, then you're better off and you'll be better for the next one. So I've kind of just had that sort of perspective on it. Like how do it won't always be perfect, but if I'm always trying to improve and like not make the same mistake twice, it'll just continue to get better.
Okay, so I think also you've made some really smart choices about choosing things that were like you already have a great knowledge base. So first of all, I have to ask you this other question. I want before I forget to ask you. You were telling me before we got started, you're because you're also running a Shopify shop, a Fair shop, and a second Etsy shop, but you also have a full-time job and 3 kids. Can we know more, please? Like, can you, I mean, like, are you wanting to go full-time with Etsy or do you like this chaos? How do you manage it? Can we just talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of crazy. I will say like it all happened. It didn't all happen at the same time. I mean, I started with one, I think when I started my like brand that I have now, I started first on Shopify because I think I had read like, oh, if you want your own clothing brand, like you need your own website. So I was like, I need my own website. So like I made a Shopify, realized like it's very hard to get, besides your own network and where you're driving maybe on social, it's hard to get traffic to an independent site like that. So I kept doing that, but I said, okay, I'm going to get an Etsy shop kind of like up and running too, because I can get traffic there. So that's kind of when I started investing more in Etsy. And I had one Etsy shop and I had kids and adult products in there. And then as that started to pick up traction, I wanted to be able to share on Instagram or other locations, kind of kids stuff. But then I also wanted to have the adult stuff. The message started to get kind of muddied because it was all in one store. So that's when I decided to open a second shop to kind of keep kids in one and adults in another. So I could target more specifically for the customer and just, it was a little easier on the marketing end to keep them separate. So that's how that kind of like that evolution happened. And then I had been getting questions through Etsy about wholesale and can I do kind of larger bulk orders? And that's sort of when I kind of, and fair is very recent. That was like within the last year, I kind of started exploring that. It's actually pretty interesting for other Etsy sellers. I mean, the fair platform is fairly similar to Etsy. You're just selling to retailers instead of individual consumers, but there are a lot of crossover similarities. So it is a good, and we can chat more about that, but that is a good opportunity for some Etsy sellers to potentially consider. But so then I opened the fair shop like within the last year to kind of do more wholesale stuff there. So that's kind of how that evolution has happened. It wasn't like I tried to do them all at the same time, because I certainly wouldn't recommend that. And then about like, I mean, the wholesale or the corporate, like my corporate job, I mean, I started doing the Etsy stuff and it was small peanuts at the beginning. And I mean, like, you're not making a lot of money. I was making good money from my corporate job. So all along, I've kind of been doing them on the side, basically because I had a high bar or have a high bar for what I want to be making as a personal income that has been very hard to reach from my Etsy that can match my corporate. So the reason I haven't like jumped ship to do it full time is I'm like I'm still, long story short, I would like to be able to go full time. And that is where I'm hopefully headed, and sooner rather than later. But I've just been very strategic about building foundations with my Etsy, Shopify, Fair, all those accounts, so that when I can leave my corporate job, I have like a really robust, strong income financial support system there. Because the last thing I wanted to do and still do is like quit my full-time corporate job and then be so stressed because I'm trying to have like make up for it, and like it's not stable and some months are different, and like I want to, so I'm trading one stress for another, basically, of like doing all the things, but it's not the financial burden to kind of get to the place where I can kind of leap off and feel really good about where I am. So that's kind of how and why I'm there. And then we can also dive in more into this. But then the other piece is I do have help that, by the way, in the way of like some assistance and like how I get support for my Etsy shop.
Okay.
So we can talk about that.
Please.
So
I want to hear all about that.
so I don't do it all myself, let's say.
Okay. Because it's handmade, right? Are you having another company bulk make them for you, or are they handmade by you?
Yeah. So I have a few different kind of nobody like part-time like help employees that help me kind of get everything done and manage. But as far as production, I have a local assistant who helps me, 2 local assistants really, that come and kind of do a lot of the production prep work. They do packing for me. They do some of the embroidery production for me. This is all I have my own kind of separate studio / office. So she works out of there. And then I also have some local sewing support that helps me with my stitched letter sweatshirts. A lot of the production that I started doing everything myself, I have been able to get support on that. So I'm making everything in-house in my kind of brand and business here in San Diego. It's just not everything comes from my own 2 hands.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad people are hearing that. Like I'll often get, how do you do it all? And I go, I don't, I don't. And I think it's so scary sometimes for people to let go of the reins. Was that hard for you to delegate it or no?
Oh yeah. I mean, like one thing I've been really working on is trying to like get out of the like maker mindset where like everything has to be done by me, which is really hard. You're on Etsy because you have that passion to make things and do things on your own. So yeah, delegating has been hard. I think like I train someone on something and then you kind of have to like hope for the best in some ways. And you expect like they'll make mistakes sometimes like the rest of us. But like, I feel like as I've grown, there's no really other option than getting help and delegating things. So it's definitely hard, but it's like sort of like something you got to push through as you grow.
Have you found people who've kind of stuck with you through time? I think that was, so for me, when I was doing the sign shop, I had to have people come in and help me paint. But for the first at least couple months they were there, I was having to redo everything they did. But there's no other way to learn other than to learn sloppy. Do you know it? Like it's just how it had to be.
Yeah.
But the problem was when after like 3 to 6 months, they kind of, would move on, because Also, it was going to be seasonal, right? So like in fairness, yeah, in come March, I'm not going to have a ton of work to delegate.
Yeah, I mean, I have been lucky to have found the production help that I do in San Diego that's kind of been with me for a long time now. And they like I felt passionate about them and investing in them. So I've
Yeah.
continued, even when there's been mistakes, I try to, you know, coach and advise like, okay, this is how you do it, this is how it can be better. And like I've seen them get better with their skills. So I've tried to like, instead of try to find other people, really invest in them. And my one assistant who does a lot of the embroidery help for me, I've even like by way of investing in her, like I've, as she's been taking on more work, as she's been doing more, like I make it a point of paying her really well.
Yes.
Like that's important to me. Like I pay her well above minimum wage, like for
Yes.
everything she does. And like that, like, and that's maybe just more of like the way, values of a business owner one way or another. But like, I believe if you want quality employees who do their best work, you have to pay them well. So
Yes.
I'm not trying to kind of like pinch pennies in that. Like I want, I really value high quality in my production and I want a high quality employee and like I'm going to pay to support that. So I think that also has really helped because she's more motivated to learn and improve and stick around. And like that only ends up benefiting me as well. So I think that is another thing that has been helpful in kind of keeping those employees.
I love you so much. Emily, we are on exactly the same page. I think people stick around when you pay them really well. I always try to pay like almost double minimum wage. And I would rather, I'm not taking a loss, but I would rather invest in the person. A, because it's the right thing to do, but B, because long term they're going to stick, they're going to like, they're not going to want to go anywhere else. They're going to have a
Right.
vested interest. And I think that like that, I think that strategy is so underutilized. And it's hard as an Etsy seller, right? We are small businesses, but I think your attitude of just, I'm going to stick it out in my corporate job and I'm going to delegate this and I'm going to take the slow road is the way to build the solid foundation. That means that
Mm-hmm.
long term you really can pivot as opposed to pivot jobs, as opposed to having to like scrap this in a few years because it's too much. I absolutely love that. Okay, and I started asking earlier and then I asked you 4 other questions instead. Because this is classic Lizzie. When you chose this particular product, you had such a solid background. Like you kind of, and not all of us have this advantage, right? I definitely was not in interior, in like, interior decorating before choosing signs. I can't decorate anything. But you have a fashion background. Did that really inform you choosing this niche?
Well, it's interesting because I have gone through some evolutions of the products that I sell.
Okay.
Like when I first started, and like I mentioned, I kind of started building a Shopify first and then kind of brought in Etsy after. I started really looking at and creating women's wear. When I left my design job to go to business school, I was working for Anthropologie doing women's blouses, soft wovens, dresses. So that's kind of where my mind was at. So I was designing pieces kind of my aesthetic, but like that's kind of what my like most recent design experience was. So I was doing a lot of that. And I was sewing all of those myself and a lot of them were very detailed and intricate and I realized like the pieces were beautiful and I was getting like and other ones I was doing with like smocked embroidery on Etsy, would get sales but I had to sell them for like $300. Like they were so because there was so much intricacy and work. And people would like, I did have people buy them. I mean, not like super frequently, but I got sales, but I didn't want to keep doing that.
Yes.
I didn't want to have to charge people $300 or something. Like I didn't feel good about that. I also was thinking like already thinking long-term how I wanted to grow this business, unless you're competing with like couture brands, like it was going to be really hard to compete at any scale doing that. So I started exploring other products and that's where I first got into these vintage inspired sweatshirts with stitched letters. Kind of my aesthetic has always been like inspired by vintage. I love vintage clothing and like the details of the stitching and the embroidery. And that's kind of where my kind of passion was. So I first started with this one type of sweatshirt that started to pick up traction really well. And I pivoted away from the women's wear, kind of like slowly weeded those out and then went full into these like stitched letter sweatshirts. After having success with that for a few years, I was really interested in getting into embroidery and like specifically like the chain stitch script type of embroidery and like the vintagey vibe that had. I had never embroidered in my entire life. Like I had done plenty of sewing, but I never embroidered at all. But I really wanted like to try this, and I believed that it would be worthwhile. So this was like the first like big investment I made in my business. I like bought an embroidery machine, and I didn't want to buy like a little one. I was like, I need to buy the one that I believe is like the right one to get. And it was like a $12,000 embroidery machine, which like I had never, I mean, like it was like, it was a big leap of faith because like I said, I never even embroidered before. Like I was like, not that I didn't think I could do it, but I was like, I'm assuming I'll be able to sell things with this. This is like a big investment with like no proven sales behind it, but I'm going to go for it. I think my husband was like, you're crazy. but like I ended up like being able to basically like, I put it on a credit card. I don't know, I recommend that for everyone, but that's what I did. And then like was able with my sales, I think I like completely paid it off like 3 months later or something like that. So like it worked out. I like kind of I got it. I hustled, things took off and like it worked. But like that's kind of like how I got to like the embroidery side of things. And like not saying I would necessarily recommend that path, but that's what I did, and it ended up working out okay for that.
Okay, but I have to know, I have such an itch to try. Is embroidery hard to learn? Was it hard?
Well, there's a million different ways you can do it. I really
Yes.
focus like on this like chain stitch script.
It's
that
beautiful. I'm obsessed with my sweatshirt. Obsessed. I get compliments everywhere I go. It is my favorite piece of clothing. If I wasn't so insecure about my neck, I would be wearing it right now. I'm obsessed, Emily.
So that, I mean, like there was a bit of a learning curve to figure out because like, and I don't know that I kind of charted my own way to figure out how to do it. I had to like find the right, like learn all about embroidery fonts, which I didn't know about. And then I had to buy this embroidery software, which I knew nothing about, that I used to design the actual, like the text for each sweatshirt. And then so I kind of had to figure out my own process, which there was no, like the way I do all of this, like there were no resources for that I could find really. Like
you could sell and package that.
Yeah, but then I would not have my unique thing, maybe. But,
I know I can't help myself. I'm sorry.
But yeah, so that there was definitely a learning curve. Like I wouldn't say it's hard, but it was trial and error of figuring out like I had the vision of what I wanted, and like without a playbook, you kind of have to like inch your way along of like, okay, what is the question I'm trying to figure out? Like the question is like, how do I get a font like this? And then you're like, you solve that piece. And then you're like, okay, but how do I get it to do this? And then you have to like solve that piece. So, and honestly, like that's how I've done most of the things in my business, is like breaking it down into the questions. And then you have to like go out and solve them one by one. And like, that's sort of like how I inched forward in a lot of ways. So yes, long story, there's a bit of a learning curve, but I don't know, you kind of just got to jump in and figure out in a lot of ways.
Are you a print on demand or digital product Etsy seller who's tight on time or still learning all of the Etsy secrets? I totally remember the days of having no idea what product to create next before I learned how to make those informed decisions so I can really identify with where you're at. I know how stressful and frustrating it can be to just create listing after listing and see little to no results. You wonder what you're doing wrong, and you just want someone to tell you what to create that's actually going to sell. Where are those opportunities? So let me give you a leg up with my weekly trends and opportunities report. You just join my membership, and every Monday, I'm going to send you an email with a list of exactly what is trending right now, with a video tutorial showing you how I found those trends and how to apply them in your shop. We're taking guesswork and extensive time off of your table. I'm also going to send you 5 print-on-demand and digital product opportunities that are growing in demand right now, helping new shops make sales and still have very low saturation in the marketplace. So your tight schedule, your newbie status doesn't have to hold you back anymore. I'm going to help you earn while you learn. You can grab my free demo to start and see an example of what the weekly trends and opportunities email looks like right from the show notes. See what you're going to get, and I will see you on the inside soon.
Okay, so I have to ask this. So the sweatshirt I got, guys, it has my kids' names stitched along the side of the collar. So she had to not only figure out how to do the font, but how to get it to arch. And now I'm wondering if you have to do math for every single one that you do, because it's a different length of characters that you then have to chain along the exact right. And then the size of the shirt too, does it change based on the size of the shirt and the names? I just need to know how complicated this is.
So there's an embroidery software that I use. With this, you can import photos to use as like a base kind of, and then you can
Wow.
design the embroidery like on the photo, sort of, if that makes sense, as a background. So like I can do that to really mock up on the computer how it will look.
Okay.
So that's how I can tell based on whatever the order is, how big it's going to be, how long it's going to be, how to adjust the curve and things like that. And then you'll be able to use that to kind of like translate on the sweatshirt. So that's kind of how I figure out like the placement and things like that.
So the software is doing the calculus.
Yeah, pretty much.
Thank goodness, because I was over here like, whoa, you need a math PhD in addition to be able to. That is so cool. Okay, what equipment are you loving? What are you using? What's working well?
I mean, I think like one of the things, like probably a lot of your listeners are aware of the various Etsy kind of tools out there that help you with, seeing what traffic looks like, keywords, stuff like that. And like, honestly, I don't use those very much. I mean, I have dabbled in the past on that, but it's not, I don't know. I don't put a lot of clout in that. So like personal preference. But I would say something that's maybe a little bit different that's been instrumental for me is a software. Well, it's a tool that Notion is the tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a way, and you could maybe use something like a Google Sheets, but like I use Notion to track all of my production and all of my orders. And it's super helpful in getting things organized so they can be done like in a batch process. So I learned early on, like basically I was like, even before Fair began and I got started working in that, I had my Shopify and 2 different Etsy shops, and trying to manage all the orders was just like impossible because everyone had customization details. I would have to click into one account to see what order was coming up when, and like what is the date, and like I would forget, and then before I knew it, like, oh my gosh, and this one over here is due. Like they were all in different places. So I started this tracker in Notion that basically brings together all of my orders from all of my shops, and it organizes them by the product. So the specific type of sweatshirt, the size, the color, the design that's needed. Is it embroidered? Is it stitched? Like it has all these details in it. And from there, I can filter to see like, okay, what are all the embroidered items in the production queue, and kind of prep all that together at one point, or I can print that as a list and give it to my assistant and she has that to work off of.
Notion.
And it also has the dates things are due. So like it really helps kind of consolidate all of the production we do so we don't miss anything. And if I have to place an order for sweatshirts, I can see like automatically in that list, like these are the colors, these are the sizes, and like makes it so much easier. So that is a lifesaver if you have like a shop with a ton of personalization details. I mean, I would say that's probably my like holy grail like tool that I use, like not even like a normal Etsy tool, but it's super, super helpful.
Well, it makes perfect sense. Like somebody who's doing something as specific and handmade and in demand as what you are, like most people can't compete with you. You know what I mean? So you don't need the SEO tools as much as others would. Like we already know what's in demand. You're not adding a new, like how many products you have in your shop?
So we really only have like, I mean, I don't know the number offhand. Like I don't have a ton of different products. I have different
Yes.
listings that showcase kind of different styling, different colors, like some on a man, some on a woman. So like I have a lot of different listings. They're all not all unique products. I mean, we don't make
Yeah.
it's only, probably less than 10 different like
Products, right? And you had like 30 something listings. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've pared that down a lot. I used to do a lot more, and then I kind of like wanted to keep it simple and like easy to navigate. So yeah.
But you're a rare butterfly, because typically like a lot of the Etsy sellers that listen print on demand or digital products and even handmade, they have to have a lot of SKUs. And so you don't need to be adding new, because so let me just give everyone a little bit of a lesson on how the algorithm works. So we add new listings regularly because it helps boost us in the algorithm, and also it helps us find out what's going to sell really well. When you're in the handmade space, you don't need to do that, because your constant sales will create more traffic to your shop. So when I'm saying continue to add new listings, either A, it's because you're selling a very low profit item and you need to move a lot of volume, kind of like a Walmart. You've got to have a lot of choices and you've got to sell a lot of it to make the same money that Emily can make with fewer products that have a higher profit margin. So every time she makes a sale, so long as she's selling something that's in high demand, that's moving, it's going to keep her established in the algorithm, and she's going to keep getting views, visits, favorites, sales. When you have to stack your income more in a shop that's moving print on demand or moving digital products, it's going to work differently. So that makes complete sense. How are you? I mean, and this is why I think people who are willing to go the handmade route and make the higher quality product, honestly, and like the more, I'm about to do like a whole episode on this, but the more that AI continues to take over the workspace, and we all have to pivot, and a lot of jobs won't exist anymore. But if we can create experiences for people, whether it's in person and it's entertainment, or it's a beautiful handmade product, something like that, that's how we can stay relevant. So someone like you is so perfectly positioned for what's coming, Emily. It makes me really excited for you. And it makes me want to just like show you to the world, be like, pay attention to what Emily's doing and find your way, whether it's cupcakes or it's crocheted stuffies for a newborn, or it's whatever it is, something handmade. But how are you then finding your SEO? How do you go about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I've tried a lot of different things. And ironically, like for me, I found that like my bestseller listings tend to be like, it's the same. Like I try to like update ones, or I try new tactics or new things. And like my one adult sweatshirt, that's the best, my best seller continues to be, I think like the lifetime sales I've had on that is like $50,000 from like one listing, because it just continues to be the one that performs the best. So I'm like, well, I'm not gonna mess with that if that one keeps going. So like that's one, is like if it's working, I let it go. And in the past I've done more like frequent changes and try to be up on like the seasonal trends and have a different SEO like every time it's back to school and this and that. And like, I do like try to change them like seasonally, but I also don't want to overwork it, because I think that can go against you. And I also like big picture, like I've thought like the amount of time I could get in the nitty gritty on this SEO, like, is that really the best use of my time?
For you, because it's not.
Yeah, so I think it comes down to that too, like how much, like what really is your ROI on like tweaking things on SEO. And like if you can do it quickly and you test and learn and you iterate and like find what works and dive in, like do that. But if it's a crutch of like tweaking my SEO is me being busy and like feeling like I'm productive, but it's not actually like changing my bottom line, like don't do that. Like that's not like, because I've fallen into that trap too, where it's like, oh yeah, it's on my to-do list. I got to update my SEO. And like, how much does that really help you? So I don't know, maybe this is unpopular opinion, but like, I definitely don't I don't kill myself over SEO. I think what I've also found in doing some research is like a lot of the best sellers, depends on the product, but in things that I'm looking at, their SEO is really bad. They're just entrenched, like they've gotten a lot of sales in the past, like with literally like horrible, no SEO, horrible titles. And they just continue to stay at the top because they're at the top and it's the one that's seen. Yes. And so they just stay up there. So,
or they're driving their own traffic.
Mm-hmm. I have found that like what can help, like get your SEO, like do the research, learn how to do the SEO. Yes. I'm not saying like, don't do it. Just like, don't kill yourself like hours over it when like at some point the ROI is not there. But the other thing that I have found like to try to help if you're trying to get boosted more to be seen is a combination of running a sale, like a discount, and then paid ads. Because if you can pay for the ad to at least get you seen and you have the sale running and kind of like jumpstart that traffic, it can then, even when you turn that off, if you can get the boost initially from there, it can kind of keep you there. It's like the way to get seen. It's not a long-term strategy. It's like a short-term get seen. You have to have the good product to back it up. It's not going to work if like your product isn't good.
Exactly.
Or like but it can help to kind of like jumpstart you to the front. And then it's up to you if with your product, with your customer service, all of that to like maintain that position. So that's
you don't, this is what I love. You do not need to worry about SEO so much because you are making a high demand handmade product. It's those of us who are trying to compete in other spaces where there is a ton more competition. So few people can compete with you. Who's going out to buy a $12,000 machine with no proof of concept? We haven't even gotten into your photos yet and your photo shoots
Were a
yet.
little smarter than me. I don't know. It was a risk, but
No, here's the thing. Do you know what? Okay, so first of all, I'm going to say some things. First of all, I love that you put it on a credit card because if it hadn't worked out, you could have gone and sold it, made back most of your money, and you could have paid off that credit card, at least most of the way. So you didn't take on as much personal risk. That is what businesses do. They leverage money. Individuals freak out about credit. Leverage it. Big business leverages credit. Do I think that can get abusive? Absolutely. But it's also like, how many of us have a mortgage? Do we think that that's wrong? We don't. We're leveraging. So I think you're a genius. Second of all, you knew the industry. You were not, you didn't come from fashion and be like, I'm going to invest $12,000 in creating finance tracking software, which would have been something you would have had no grid for. You know what I mean? Like, you made an educated decision based on what you already knew. You guys heard her intro. This girl could put me to shame. Like, your resume is insane. So you were going into an industry that you knew. You already worked for the heavy hitters. So like, there are things that are happening here that isn't just the everyday Etsy seller. But also, again, like, I think that we have to take calculated risks. Like, maybe unpopular opinion, I even print on demand. You have to have a credit card to have print on demand. I lost my train of thought, but I liked my rant anyway. There was actually like something very specific I was going to address, and then it went right out of my brain. What about, let's then pivot until it comes back to me. Let's talk about your photos, because your photos are unexpected. They're like, they're perfect. They're like a little bit vintage. You kind of look at it and you're like, is this from a 90s catalog? But in the best way, in a like a Emily understands the marketplace better than anybody kind of a way. Are you taking those photos and videos yourself?
so my photos have gone through like everything an iterative process. But
Iterations.
when I started, I had to figure out, like, with the sweatshirts, I had to figure out how to take photos of that in a way that I felt like looked good, and I struggled at first to figure that out. And then one of the ways that I ended up doing it and kind of like diving into was I got a backdrop, like a fake, and I live in San Diego. It's nice weather, but like, we have a tiny little house, and like, I don't have a ton of space for like a photo room. So I found a faux wood backdrop, like, that I could roll out just in like a well lit area of my house. And then I did research, like looking on store websites, looking on Pinterest. I'm like, how do you fold a sweatshirt in a way that like looks professional, and like I had to just test it, try, whatever. I came up with a formula that worked to kind of fold the sweatshirt in a way that looked normal and not too big, and would kind of work in the size of an Etsy photo, and put it on that wood background. And I took photos on there like for a long time of like every item that I ever made. I took a picture of it. So I had every possible combination photographed, every color, like just everything. Before I shipped out every order, I was like, take a photo, take a photo, take a photo.
Yes.
So like, continue to like build that, and then so that I could have a ton of listing photos. But then also I had them in my back pocket if ever anyone was like, what does this sweatshirt, a red sweatshirt with white letters, look like? I'm like, I have a photo. So I did that. That was one thing I did with the photos, and I kind of just iterated on that. Last year, I decided to invest in a professional photo shoot because I really felt, and like, this was also for my shop, like to use in my Shopify store, and then also on Etsy, is that like, I feel like having the photos on a person makes a huge difference. And I wanted them to look really professional and really well done. And another big investment, I will say, like, I am not shy about making investments in my business. If it's a thing that I feel confident in, I will do it. So this was another big investment, but I made sure, like, basically hedge as much as I could. I took our most classic, well sold styles. I did them in photos that could kind of be evergreen. They weren't super seasonal specific. They weren't really trend specific. They were like very kind of general in a way, so that I could use them in a lot of locations. I could use them for years to come. I wanted some on a man, some on a woman, some of them together, like just kind of like get as much as I could out of that photo shoot. So that was another thing I think was huge for me, is to enable kind of the on-person product photos in addition to the sort of flat lay ones.
Have you seen a difference? Are the models converting better for you than the flat lays?
I haven't actually seen that on Etsy, which is
I don't think it
interesting.
would. Yeah, it's
I
interesting.
was like curious to see, and like, because it definitely, I feel like, stands out on Etsy, but like, yeah, I don't know. I haven't actually noticed them to do any better than the flat lays.
A few years ago they did. Like they definitely models worked better a few years ago, and now flat lays are everything. It's really interesting. It totally changed in the last 24 months.
And maybe it's because you can see the details. You can see the details a little better, I think, on the flat lay. It could be that. But then the last thing I was just going to say about the photos is I've found for me all the photos and I do take photos. I have a separate office studio now with some space to do like hanging photos. I have a little more room there. But I take all my photos with a nice Canon camera. iPhones are great. You can take great iPhone photos. I personally don't do any iPhone photos for any of my shops. I find that the professional DSLR Canon camera just, it blows them out of the water every time. So I take them all with that camera, and then I will edit them in Lightroom, like light editing, just if the different tweaks need to be made. And I just think that they're crisper, they look more professional, and I think it goes a long way. So to me, photos like on Etsy, like it's another thing that's worth investing in. Like, and you may have to test and figure out for your product what works best, but like it's like so important, I think.
I love how you said that you first spent a bunch of time looking at how a number of stores, brands that had the aesthetic that you wanted to be inspired by, like we call that building your brain cache. And I always talk about that before people even go to design or create a new product, is go and study what's trending well, not to copy it, but to understand. Because 9 times out of 10, if I do a shop audit in my coaching group, the problem is design quality. You either don't understand the trends, you're not paying attention to the details, and you just need to level up the design. It's the same thing for the mock-ups, or in your case, the photos, because there's no way you could use mock-ups. There's not good enough like software to show how embroidery would look yet. Our workarounds are mediocre at best. So you went and paid attention to those details before you tried to do it. You also, I think, probably drew on your experience, but the rest of us, we have to pay attention to the details. And I totally remembered, thank you to you, what I was going to say before. And I'm glad, because when you were saying that you used to go in and seasonally like test different SEO and backdrops and things like that, I just wanted to tell people, if you have a listing that's performing well, don't edit the actual listing. And Emily's talked about doing this before. Duplicate the listing that's doing well and make the changes there. So if she wanted to do something for like with Christmas SEO or Christmas photo, she would take her listing that's doing really well with her bestseller sweatshirt, duplicate that listing and make the changes there. And she'd leave the original alone so that she wouldn't affect her standing in the algorithm. Because the minute you change a title, a tag, or your photos, especially that thumbnail photo, you get refiltered in that algorithm. So don't mess with it. I'm guessing that I'm like, just wanted to make sure people heard that, because when you were saying tweaking them, I was like, oh yeah, someone's going to assume just go in and change it out.
Yeah. I mean, like, I will say, if I have some that are just like totally like dead listing, like they if they're not doing well anyway, yes, I'm like, well, there's nothing to lose on that one. But certainly if it's doing well, I'm like, well, I'm just going to leave that baby alone.
Exactly. You know, some of it is just like that instinct, right? Like you and I literally became entrepreneurs at the age of like 8. So we've tried things enough, but a lot of people are new to it and they just don't, that just doesn't even occur to them yet. And so I want to prevent anyone from putting themselves in hot water. What about the videos? Did you do your own listing videos before?
The videos I usually just do, I mean, like I think I have a few different ones on there. Like some I've tested. I've had some where I kind of did where like I modeled it and like it kind of like zooms in and out on me. I tried some of that. Mostly I do them where I kind of like pan over the sweatshirt so you can see the details really closely, is generally what I do for them, just to be able to like really see like the stitching and like the specifics of the item. But like those I do on my iPhone, and I feel like that works just fine.
That's perfect, because literally adding B-roll onto a photo shoot is no inexpensive addition.
Yeah. I mean, and the photo shoot was like, another one of those things where like, I certainly wouldn't recommend that to everyone. But the other thing I'll mention about the photo shoot is there are ways, depending on what your product is, that you can kind of do this on a cheaper scale. I mean, before when I started and I had like literally no money for a photo shoot, I like made a plan with myself, like, okay, today's the photo shoot. I'm going to do this. I like made a list of like, I want this type of photo, this type of photo, this type. Like I made my shot list. I gathered all the things I was going to need, and it made it happen really quickly. So like you can still do that on your own as like one option if you have no photo shoot budget. But the other thing that I also did for a kids photo shoot this year is I had a photographer that I had partnered with in the past, and she's in, I forget where she is. She's not in San Diego. She's in like Montana or something. Like she doesn't even live here, but she does a lot of like she's a photographer and does adults and kids photos. So I contracted her to do a kids photo shoot for me. She found like the child models that she was going to be using. She gave me their sizes and their names, and I made kind of like designed all the products I wanted to be shot. I sent them to her in a box. I gave her like images of the direction I wanted for the shoot and how I wanted them styled. And she did the shoot remotely and then like sent the stuff back and got me the photos. So like, it's just another way you can do it. If depending on where you live, if you're like, I live in, there's no photographers here. Or like, this isn't a photogenic place or whatever. Like you can find someone who's elsewhere and like there's ways to do it if you're creative. So that's just another even avenue to think down if you're willing to invest, but maybe not go like as high budget as like my adult photo shoot that I did. There's like in between middle grounds you can find too.
I'm so glad we talked about this because I'm kind of running an experiment right now to compare like the photos that I took with my iPhone in a shop against professional photos that my photographer, Brittany, she came on the podcast a while back, and she's an outstanding product photographer. Like you would not believe her stuff. But so like kind of running an A/B test of here's what it looks like when you do them yourself. And I'm a mediocre, I've done enough before where I can figure it out. I usually still win out on volume. Like I don't have the greatest photos. That's why I was like, well, let's try. What happens if I invest a couple $1,000s in a true shoot, have somebody who really knows what they're doing. I just want to be able to tell everybody what it means. So I love that. I have to ship things to her. So I think that's a great, I don't even know what episode that was. I'll link the episode below for anybody who's curious which one that was if you want to listen. Okay. As we kind of like wrap up here, where do you see your shop a year from now? Like how do you want to grow this baby? We can even talk about Fair and Shopify, and are you driving traffic from social media? So any of that you want to throw in, please do.
Yeah. I mean, I like I've mentioned, like I've been taking the slow road, I'd say, like the slow strategic road to growth. And
she
like
says that and she makes more sales than like everybody. I don't know. Like,
but I mean, like, but like I said, like I've been sort of hedging for a long time with my corporate job. And like that is strategic because I really want to get to the place where I can like jump off from that and feel really, really good that I have a stable business to be going to. So that's kind of the vision and where I hope to be going within the next year. And I've been investing more in my Shopify and what I'm doing there and kind of like wanting to build the brand beyond Etsy. I think Etsy is an amazing place because you have that built-in marketplace of traffic there that they don't need to know anything about you. Like they don't need to find your Instagram. Like you have such a wider net of people you can reach on Etsy. So that will remain a part of our sales strategy, a part of our, like one of our channels. Like I don't plan to go anywhere off of Etsy, but instead I'm really shifting the focus to kind of expand beyond that. And like within my own Shopify store is one place I'm doing that. So I have actually work that's happening right now. I'm working with a graphic designer, brand strategist. We're kind of like building out a new brand identity and going to be updating my Shopify website to really build into that. And then I'm also going to be doing some more influencer partnerships to kind of like help drive traffic there from our social media. So like that's where a lot of my current focus is right now to be building towards that. And then Fair is interesting because that was not really on my radar until being kind of asked by a few businesses about that. And it's been like, it's grown a ton. Like I think I opened that shop less than a year ago. It was like maybe the end of 2024. I opened that. I think like even in that amount of time, I've made like $30,000 or $40,000 of like wholesale sales through there. So like that, and it continues to grow. The margins are lower, but you get high ticket order. So, and like, that's a whole nother like rabbit hole we could go down about that. But like, it definitely, if you have a product that can be sold, that makes sense to be sold in that way, could be a really good opportunity for Etsy sellers to explore to like expand their business because you can do way more in sales And like, yes, you have you're doing the product, but like it's repetitive. It's all the same one. So like it's not as tricky as like one-offs you'd be doing on Etsy. So I think like the way I see my business growing is kind of like an amalgamation of all of those. I think there's a role for Etsy. I think there's a role for our own kind of like brand hub in Shopify. And then there's a role to kind of grow as sort of like a revenue engine with the wholesale on Fair. So I think they all have their pieces. But I mean, I've, like I mentioned, invested in employees to help me. I have a virtual like online assistant who helps me like manage orders and production and that like tracker I mentioned. So it's all about kind of getting that support system too, because I like, even to get to where I am now with my business, I could not, like, I don't do it alone, and I couldn't have done it alone. And there's certainly no way I can like continue to grow by doing it alone. I think that's kind of the vision, is to keep doing what we're doing and kind of invest in those sort of unique pockets I mentioned. But hopefully if we chat again on here, I'll be able to tell you about how I quit my corporate job, and that'll be the next thing I'll be able to talk about. But
can I be like your fifth phone call after that? Like call your mom, call your aunt, whatever, and then somewhere in there be like, Lizzie, it's time. That would be incredible. You're reminding me, I really need to find like a Fair coach to bring on here and talk about. I had a gal who sells on Fair, like on Etsy and on Fair, come on and do a full episode like over a year ago. And people love that and learn so much. But I think it'd be really cool to find someone who can actually be a bit of a Sherpa for us about it. Oh, I probably shouldn't use that word. I apologize. I don't mean any disrespect. Someone who can guide us through.
There is I ended up buying her course. It was like how to sell on wholesale, Fair. And like she talks a lot about Fair. Her name is Emily Gray.
I don't know. Her name is Emily.
Yeah, Emily Gray.
I found about this before.
I saw, it may have even like I saw her through an Instagram ad or something like that. I don't know how I found her, but she had like a limited podcast where it was like every episode was teaching about like a different component of wholesaling and setting, like, it's not just specific to Fair. It's more like setting up a wholesale in general. Cool. And then she also has some online courses that she does. She actually has her own, she's a retailer with with a boutique that does really well. So she kind of teaches from the boutique owner, but she's teaching to sellers. So like kind of speaking, like, I'm a customer, I run a boutique, and I'm going to tell you the tips of like how you can sell to people like me.
Did you think it was a really good course? Was it worth your investment?
It was. I mean, I don't think it wasn't like a huge investment as far as courses go. I mean, some like you can spend a lot more on. I think I got a lot. And like the podcast, she has like a training podcast, or at least it was available when I had it. Like that was really helpful when was like getting my toes into it. Like first, like, where do I even begin? How do I think from the mindset of wholesale? So I found that to be really, really helpful. I don't really turn to the course now. It was like a good starting point. So she's definitely a good resource for either potentially to have on the show, or just like the people could look into if they want to learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to I'll reach out to her. Maybe she'll come chat, because I am like, for me, wholesale does not sound fun. I think so many of you guys should do it. And if I had a handmade product, that would be one thing. But otherwise, if I had a handmade product that I was like, yes, let's make a ton of these, it would be one thing.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's so many other things I wanted to talk to you about. You are utterly brilliant, Emily. You are. Well,
you know what? Like I mentioned before, like I have made my fair share of mistakes. Like there's certainly things like I've like learned so much along the way. And like, I think the key is just like, keep going, going,
iterate
for the mistakes, like iterate, like as long as you're improving on like something that didn't work, like you have to get better. Like it will get better. You just have to like take it all in stride, keep the big picture, like, and just keep going. Yeah.
Are you brand new to Etsy, about to get started, or struggling a bit to find your groove? What I'm about to say is just for you, okay? I can completely relate to where you're at, because I think I can help you achieve success faster. When I first started my Etsy shop, it was not one of those success stories that we hear on the big YouTube channels, even on this podcast, where I just had crazy success and it took off right away, right? I all but failed for my first 6 months, just like a lot of new sellers. And so it's very relatable. And the issue for me was I didn't understand demand, for one. I didn't understand SEO. I was way too broad in my search terms. And I didn't know how to position my product so that customers just couldn't help but click add to cart. And so once I learned those things, I went from making about $25 a month in sales to $6,000 a month and up. And in the holidays, I would even have $13,000 months, like at my shop's peak. And the thing about me, if you've been here for a minute, you already know this. I'm a terrible gatekeeper. Okay. When I figure something out, when I crack a code, when I get excited, I cannot help but tell everybody who wants to listen. It's like either my best asset or my toxic trait. I can't decide. But I put everything that you need to know to fill that beginner knowledge gap into a low ticket, just under 3 hours beginner course that I have called 6-Figure Secrets to Getting Started on Etsy. In it, I'm teaching you how to find what's in demand for your niche, how to find and use trends, how to start your shop if you're worried about that part, SEO strategy to find the micro niches where the opportunity is, how to understand the Etsy algorithm, and a ton more. The whole thing is bite-sized videos, not long form, just small bite-sized videos, zero fluff, and to the point. You could get the course today, go through the less than 3 hours over the next couple days, launch your shop this weekend, and have sales coming in as soon as Sunday. So let's get you the few missing pieces of the Etsy success puzzle, those little tweaks you need to make so you can start making the sales that you deserve, because I have never been more convinced that there is room at this table on Etsy for everyone. And the opportunity is so ripe right now. I am in the numbers, in the data every day, and my mind just keeps expanding on the possibilities, okay? So as a special treat, use the code SAVE50 to save $50 on the 6-Figure Secrets course today. That's $50 off with the coupon SAVE50. And by all means, DM me or shoot me an email when those sales start popping, because I want to celebrate with you.
I think there's so many like lessons we can learn from you though. It's take calculated risks. It's expect this to take a long time. It's make really smart decisions so you're not working out of like desperation, you're working out of creativity, so like keeping your job. It's use other people's money when appropriate. It's gosh, I mean, they were like so it's take on tackle one thing at a time and scale. It's don't try to do it all. I mean, literally the amount of gold nuggets that you dropped is immense, but you're doing it all the right way. And the biggest thing I want people to know is this is completely worth it. And as our culture and economy change with AI, it's going to be the only option for some people. I really think that hospitality and gifting and getting back to craft things is going to be one of the only ways we can differentiate ourselves, which is why I'm really like staring down handmade a lot again. Right now, digital is still great, but I'm like starting to talk about this more, Emily, because I think it's really important and I think it's going to be an ongoing conversation. Digital and print on demand is still awesome, and it's going to become much harder to make enough money as the world changes. So people like you taking the time now to build in the solid foundation, doing it wisely, like letting it play out where you're watching it rather than trying to make a rash decision, delegating so that you can do it that way is so it's wise and it's necessary, and it's brands like yours that'll stand the test of time. It's very sobering, but it's very true. So creating experiences like what you do. Oh, I want to, I'm so bad. Do you respond to your own DMs on Etsy? I want to know if I was talking to you or someone else.
For the most part, it's me.
Okay.
One thing I'm trying to like get into more is Etsy now has those like you can do like pre-written responses that like I want to do that to save myself some time because I get a lot of the same questions again and again. So I do need to do that. My assistant who does the production tracker, if someone doesn't put in the details of like, because everything's customized. Sometimes people like order something and they don't say the color they want, or like they don't like they don't add all the details we need for customization. She will often message them if like the details are missing. But for the beyond that, the communication comes from me. I'm like the one in there doing those.
You haven't let go of control of that. It's seamless.
The other thing I wanted to mention quickly about like just kind of building off like what you were mentioning, like the digital and like there's the personal touch is like super important. Like that's, I think, another key to success on Etsy is like really good customer service, because I think there's a lot of Etsy shops that have really bad customer service. And like, honestly, like when I was like, I never really like thought that I was doing anything that exceptional for customer service. Like I don't send like real-time updates of your thing or like super like I don't have time for that. So like I don't like it's not like I'm doing anything crazy, but like respond when someone sends you a message, respond quickly, be friendly, be helpful, like show you're a real person, like all those things. Like I have people come back to me and they're just like so thankful for a response and so thankful for
Yeah.
like the help. Like people really value, like, and it's not even like you have to go that far above and beyond, and people value it. So like that I think goes a long way. And then the other thing that I think helps to kind of boost with reviews and in line with that is I have also invested in the packing materials that I give to people when I ship orders. I have custom stickers that I use like to stick like for every order that I package in like tissue paper. I have like a custom branded sticker on there. I have a little sticker I put that I seal on every like receipt that I put in there. I have cards that I put in that like thank you for your purchase. If you love it, leave a review and here's a discount to kind of like encourage those reviews and repeat purchases. And I think that also goes a long way, is like the customer experience when they open the package. So that's another thing that I've invested in, because I also kind of probably could get cheaper things that I put in there, like the inserts, but I want it to feel like they open it and they're like, oh, wow. Like that I think is like can go a long way. And then here's another helpful nugget tip that I used in the inserts is because I have two Etsy shops, I have a kid shop and an adult shop. And a lot of times people could, you could buy from the adult and you have kids, you just don't know about the kids or vice versa. So in every kids order, I have a card that advertises the adult shop with a QR code so they can scan it to go directly to the adult shop. And then I put a kids one in the adult purchases to basically cross promote for every order that I have. So if you buy from one shop, you'll see like basically the promotion of the other shop and vice versa, to like keep like as many customers from one to kind of funnel them to the other. And I think that also helps in like driving traffic, driving awareness. You kind of have like a warm audience already. They bought from shop A. And so like serve them a message to send them to shop B. And so
Yes.
like that is kind of another way I've tried to be smart about like, you have a captive audience with an order that you're sending. Like, how can you leverage that to like continue the relationship and continue sort of like the sale even further from that point? So I think that's like also within that customer service thing that can go a long way.
Do you send them to the Etsy shop or the Shopify?
I send them to Etsy. I want to like, and potentially in the future, I'll send them to Shopify. I'm like reworking that site right now. So maybe that'll be the strategy going forward. Like up until now, I've tried to like keep them in the Etsy ecosystem, but it could be an interesting potential play to kind of then like send them over there. I'm always kind of like, and this is sort of also like the marketing business in me, is like, you think about the customer journey and like the funnel of like, how do I, every time they're somewhere, how do I send them to like the next point, and how do I send them to the next point? Like, or even like you put something in there, like another thing anyone could do is like put in a little card for your Instagram to say like, hey, and like follow us on Instagram, to kind of like get them to go to Instagram and like continue the relationship there. So like, how do you leverage that? Yeah, that's another thought.
I would be super curious to know what the data would show about, because it's better for us as sellers if they go to the Shopify. But I wonder if they'd be more likely to repurchase again from Etsy. Do you know what I mean? It's like keeping them with what they're comfortable with, where all of their data is already input. I just would love to see the math on that. Just what does it say? What does it say gets the better result? It's super interesting.
I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to know like if somebody's an Etsy seller, if they come from Etsy or they want to stay in Etsy.
Yeah.
I mean, the benefit of like what I don't have as much on, like Etsy has the social proof aspect built into it that like right now my Shopify doesn't. You can see my store has X amount of sales. It has X amount of reviews. You can read reviews. You see review photos. Like you have that assurance there. Like my Shopify, like it's a little more like, if you're coming from Etsy, maybe you have a little bit like of the reassurance, but like right now you're like, this is an unknown website. Like if you come from Instagram, you're like, I don't know what this business is. Like there's no reviews on here right now. Like, how do I know? Like, so Etsy has at least that going for it of like, you can kind of build that reputation a little bit more easily with those like.
And Etsy has your back with a guarantee, right? Like they'll refund your order. It's right now I'm in two, and I'm not a big complainer. I'm the person who will eat the meal that came wrong to the table at the restaurant. I will not complain. I will still give I'll probably, if I get bad service, I'll give a better tip. Like I'm like that. I don't complain. But I am in two disputes right now with online, just random Shopify sites that did me dirty. So it'll be interesting to see too, as I feel like the scams are going through the roof, but you have the advantage of you're sending them from an Etsy purchase. Do you know what I mean? They already know you. They already know your product. You have you can leverage that. So whole different. We're just gonna have to talk again, Emily. We just have too many things to talk about. And we got into so much of the nitty gritty. This was such a fun conversation for me, and I really want to thank you because you've served our audience so beautifully. Like there's been so much just wealth that you've shared, knowledge that you've shared, and I just want to thank you so much for taking your time to do that with us today.
Yeah, of course. And like I said, I've always been kind of like looking for more resources about Etsy and trying to learn as much as I can. So like to be able to give back to other people, like trying to do the same thing. Like, I mean, I've been there, I'm still there. Like, I'm always like, how can I learn from other people? So I'm just happy to be able to contribute and help in that way.
Okay, well, I would love to keep in touch. There's so much I want to know. I'm so excited for you, your position for utter greatness. So you guys, thank you so much for listening in today. I'm sure you loved Emily and everything she had to say as much as I did. We will get her back. I'm going to do everything I can. But until next week, y'all, go make something awesome. I love you guys. Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap on this episode of How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're looking for more resources, head on over to howtosellyourstuff.com, where you'll find podcast show notes, all the links from today's episode, the blog, courses, coaching, and more. If this episode was helpful to you, awesome. The greatest compliment I can receive from you is a rate, review, and subscribe on this podcast. Not only will it allow us to connect again on a future episode, it lets me know I'm providing you with value and helps other people find this content more easily. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your support. Have a great day and see you next time.